Hey, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm here with Grant Hardeway. He is an amazing photographer, although he doesn't like to call himself that way, but he is from Jersey City. And I actually met him right now, like a couple minutes ago, for the first time we see each other. But I've been following him for a couple months now. I found him on Instagram because, I'm a Jersey City person and I love Jersey City. As you know, I do a lot of stroll through the hoods and take pictures, and then I paint. And Grant does these amazing photos that really speak to me. His photos are often street scenes, sometimes void of people, sometimes with people, and they have a certain light and lines and angles that I find very, very intriguing. And I don't know, it just grabs me. Um, there's a lot of places that I actually know. Sometimes I can figure out where he took the photos, and I just love how he brings some beauty into those areas that maybe other people just pass by. So yeah, amazing. His name on Instagram is digital taxidermy. So Grant, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much.
We're in Jersey City, and how long are you doing photography?
Well, you know what? I picked up a camera in high school for art class, and I had a teacher, and I hated her for it because I could not stand the camera, and we had to go out and create scenes. And back then it was film. We had a dark room in the school, and in order to just be a pain in the butt and a rebel, we made a dummy and we snuck into a building, which was easy back then. Snuck into the building. I had friends go to the rooftop and set my camera up on a tripod. And we took pictures of the dummy being thrown off the roof of the building. And, the title of the work was, classwork suicide. So she thought it was really good. She thought it was very original. And she praised me for it, which I didn't expect. But I didn't pick up a camera again because that was a school camera until I think I was 19, so that would be 1989. Driving one night, I found a bag, took it home, left it in my Jeep, came back out the next day, opened the bag up, and it was an old Nickermac camera. And I put out signs and everything for it. My mom made me put out signs on bus stops and in the store. I didn't put out all of the signs that she asked me to, and I kept the camera. And that's how I got into photography. But I've never thought of myself as such. The label photographer never stuck with me. I just like to take pictures. It's the curiosity in me that keeps me taking pictures.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, it's an interesting, I mean, it's the old question, right? If you haven't set out yourself as, say, as an artist, or you didn't study art, or you didn't study photography or whatever, and it's kind of like a love of yours, when are you okay to call yourself an artist and photographer, So it's an interesting, I know that because my lifeline is not very straight in terms of, uh, what I do now. I used to be a paralegal, so so a very different life beforehand, So it took me a long time to be confident to call myself an artist, and sometimes still I'm not. So, but what I love about your photographer, and I told you that right before we started the interview, was when I first looked at it, I was not sure when it was taken. So your photos are very, very timeless, and your first, when you see them, you're like, this could be, could be any time, could be in the 80s, could be in the 90s, could be now. And that's really something that I find so amazing, the way how you take those photos. Besides the light, I think your lighting is just amazing. Do you do digital photos now, hence your name on Instagram, or do you do film?
I do both. The funny thing about it is that I made the switch back to film because I love digital photography. It has its pluses, and film photography has its pluses as well. But I think that because of social media, and we always have our phones with us. We get caught up in just taking pictures, and we don't stop. Okay, we really do have to stop, and we have to think about what we're doing. There's so many other factors that are important than just grabbing something that you think is sensational to garner likes and comments on a photo. And so I thought to myself, I said, you know what, if I just grab film and slow down, I can work on composition. I have an obsession with composition. I have an obsession with light and shadows. And it worked for about a month and a half. And then my film bill just went up, but I practice both. Mostly right now, if you visit my Instagram account, you'll see film. And everything before I just erased everything, because I just sometimes take the whole feed off and start fresh with digital. But you'll get a 50-50 mix right now.
So I think since you're not calling yourself a photographer, you're not a full-time photographer. You have a job.
Yeah.
That's something else. And so what did a usual photographer, your photo taking part look like before COVID-19? Like, how would you go?
Well, it was. It was. I don't leave the house without a camera, number one. And usually, I would be walking with my kids. I have 2 young boys here, and it would be on the way to school. And at that time, the light is excellent. And coming home from school, the light is excellent. And since I would follow pretty much the same path every day, I would just keep my eye out for something as I passed it and wonder, okay, is it going to be someone passing by as I take the shot? And I stopped that because the kids got bigger, and I began walking more and looking and actively searching out different spots that I would see and thought would make for an interesting frame. And it was every day. But since the COVID-19 quarantine stuff, I spend my days in the house, and I look over old magazines. I read a lot of books. I wonder how I can take something that I've read or how I've listened to, and if I can create a mood through that. And that's a challenge, and I enjoy it, because it becomes a search for something evocative. And I think that is what we're trying to do. I mean, I do like the mundane, and I think that a photo is just a photo. At the end of the day, it's just a photo. It's nothing more than that. But it's not for the audience per se. It's for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, God forbid, one day I forget everything. These are breadcrumbs for me. I want to be able to sit back, if I'm allowed, if fate allows me, to sit back in my rocker and open up a photo album, not a phone.
Right.
I want a photo album that I can open up, and I can look at these photos and say, I remember that. I remember that day. It was really nice. So that's what I do now, since I'm closed in, and I've actually pulled out a few books and a few boxes, more than a few albums, and I got mixed reviews from the family. My wife became very nostalgic. My kids were like, "Oh, you had hair," and it was fun. It was fun. But it was kind of like opening up Pandora's box, there were things there that I have a box dedicated nothing more than to the Twin Towers.
Mm.
And they were always a magnet for me when I came here. Every time I passed through Summit Avenues, I was looking at them and fixated on them and saying, okay, one day I'm going to go home. I'm really going to go back to Texas. And I never did because I was always watching them.
Yeah.
And this town, for what it's worth and what it's becoming, is really it's a really powerful place. We have so many cultures right here.
Yeah.
And we're outside of New York. So, I was telling a friend of mine just the other day, this is like the urban suburban.
Yes.
We have just that urban mix. And we can get in trains and we can run off to Brooklyn. We can run off to Bronx. We can run to Harlem. We can see all these things that make, the culture, this a cultural center. We can go to the museums. And it's really nice. And then we can come right back to our little hamlet here and live quietly. I like that.
And I love and that's what I think I was drawn to that too, the diversity, but also just the way how this city went to so many different stages throughout the centuries. Like, I think we live pretty close to each other. This used to be like the richest part of the city where like the rich people would have their mansions and they would live, and that was suburban to the other part of, Jersey City. And then it went through a lot of different eras in time and disarray. And now it's like the weird, not weird place. That's a weird thing to say, but it's like the kind of like neglected place in terms of where the city officials maybe look to and help and just like put some money in some areas, right? So it's like, it's this weird, that's what I'm drawn to. And when I paint, it's like, wow, look at these buildings that have been here forever. What kind of stories could those buildings tell, with people that have been in there, so you are very much about storytelling as well, right? In your photography.
Yeah, I try to be. You hit it on the head right there in Bergen, and I believe it is Communipaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading somewhere that was a wall. Okay. And that is what divided the Dutch settlers from the Native Americans on the other side. And we have gone through so much here, this little strip of land.
Yes.
You never know walking. You don't know what has happened there. And it has, I think that's, the energy that still, bubbles up as we walk the streets, and it keeps us going, keeps us, creating. And I think that's important.
I think it's so interesting because as a Europeans, I know that a lot of Americans always say, oh my God, Europeans have so much history and, that's architecture and yada, yada. And that's, in a way, that's true. But then I think there is a lot of history here as well. It's just not maybe talked upon so much about and maybe not that much preserved. But when I walk on Bergen, and there's the old Bergen Church, and right across you have the first cemetery in the city when the Dutch settler, there was no real New York then, like this was all like nothingness. And you have this amazing old cemetery, which is kind of sandwiched by like on one side there's this huge tall, I think, bank building or whatever. It's like a weird
ugly brown one.
Yes, this ugly brown building. And then there's like this cemetery that's kind of fenced off, and you're like, holy cow, I didn't know that was like one of the first cemeteries, and it's like really old and falling apart. But point is, there are so many pieces of history, especially also in Jersey City, because it has been here, for a while. And as you said, the history of Native Americans that no one talks about, of course, or not that much, but like part of that history as well. It's very interesting. And I think that's what I think is like in this crisis right now, there have been so many heartfelt times, but the city still stands. Like, things still move on. It might be not me and you, I don't know, but it will still go on. Like, that's
Yes, it
interesting.
will.
Right?
And the interesting part is that those stories pass us by because no one documented them.
Right.
No one was really documenting them. And we have certain, you touched on a point, we have certain epochs in American history where people documented it, and this is American history. However, in Europe, when you have a longer history of people documenting what was going on and how nations were created and what artists were creating what art and how it influenced other artists. So now we have something to kind of hang culture, if we want to call it that, onto. And so we have that history. But here, we don't talk about it as much. And I think that when you go out and you create your watercolor, your water paintings, or watercolor paintings, or however you want to call them, because I'm not an artist, I'm an ignorant old Texan, we have all of this wonderful stuff that people can go back and say, you know what, someone took the time to document this area, and look how beautiful it was. These were made whenever, but someone's out there, someone has appointed themselves as custodian to the history that we're creating and that we're living through right now, because this is a historic moment. We're living through it, and it's our duty. It really is our duty to document it and preserve it for others.
That's a very good point, which reminds me of one. There's two photos that I absolutely love, and they were taken apart in time. And it is a photo somewhere here on the streets, and you see this lady, probably older lady, with a red hat and her red jacket. And then I think you found her later, like, I don't know, you will tell us, but you found her later again, took another photo of her, and you said something about how I think you posted the time, and you said, there are certain routines that don't change. Tell us a little bit about that. It's so beautiful.
Well, it's funny because that little lady walks past every day. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, and she dresses herself up in her little red hat and her little red jacket. And I always admire her and I always say hello. Where I'm from, we always speak, especially to older people. And one day it just popped in my head, take a snap, because you always see her. One day you're not going to see her.
Yeah.
So I took a snap. And it's always at the time that I pick my kid up from school. You just don't know what time it is. And we were walking back, my son and I, and here she comes again. And I said, there she is again. I said, what time is it? And I said, the light's beautiful. And I took that photo. And it speaks volumes about our lives. I think that we do things without being cognizant of the fact that others are watching us. And we do things so often on autopilot. That hairdo that we wear because it makes us feel like we used to look back in high school. I can't do it anymore because I don't have the hair. A piece of clothing, a certain route that we take, a certain mode of thought that we habitually activate, either to our benefit or not to our benefit. But we do it without thinking. And again, photography or taking pictures allows us just to slow down. And that little lady made me slow down and really think long and hard about how I do things, and I'm not even conscious of what I'm doing. And we need to do that.
Yes.
And thanks for reminding me of that photo. I like it a lot, those two.
Are you going to look out for her when we can go out again and you're out and about?
Oh, yes. When we go out again, I have a neighbor who's turning 70 today, and I had to berate him just last week because he wasn't wearing a mask and he wasn't wearing his gloves. And I was walking to the grocery store and I saw him, and he just got over cancer.
Oof.
But he's 70, and you have to see the body of this guy, because he goes out with a sledgehammer. He pulls a tire out of his car. He beats this camera. He works out. He runs. And so I said, you know what? Stay right there. He goes, you have your camera, don't you? I said, you know I have, but I always have my camera. And I said, let me just take a real quick photo of you. And it came out really nice. I'd rather have caught it on film, and I'd rather have been able to get closer to him because I love portraiture. But we'll get back out. We'll see these people. And I think that we'll get out and we'll have a new outlook on life and a new zeal for living the way that we should and speaking to everyone.
Normal wasn't great. I saw that quote just recent in many, many parts of the life here. But maybe we don't go back to normal. We go back to something that's better afterwards. That would be great.
I think that we're really appreciating it now because we don't have the people to complain about except ourselves. We can't get upset at ourselves. We don't have anyone to point the finger at.
Right.
And say, look at this guy. We have to look in the mirror and say, look at this guy.
Right.
And what can I do with this guy to help him out? How can I make him better? What programs can I put him on? And I think that it's serving its purpose, or it should. It should. Because if we don't come out of this with a new mindset or a new skill or a new way of seeing things and proceeding, then we're just we're a lost cause.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I agree. I do have hope, though. I do have hope for this.
Oh, definitely. Right. And people like you, that reach out to others. I was telling my wife, I said, I really don't understand all of this. The Zoom and the Facebook and who wants to have a virtual happy hour? I drink. I want to drink. But when you stop and think about it, it's really nice. Even to have a virtual sense of community is better than having no sense of community.
I think we're very blessed and lucky in a way that we have these ways. And I did virtual happy hour with my friends. And it was, it's awkward because, of course, you would rather see the people in real life, but it was wonderful. And I was also in and I have it tonight again, I was in a friend, she did a roundtable for people that are mostly actors and script writers, which I have nothing to do with, but she was like, you got to be on there too. And it was very, very good because I was in a very creative rut after, after the lockdown, which is kind of weird because I work from home. I know you're working in your full-time job, probably not from home, but I work from home. And so actually that didn't change, but just the thought of being kind of trapped in, that was really messing with my head. And also that those like walks around and taking photos just for my paintings, right? I'm not a great photographer. I don't strive to, but I do that to collect what I want to paint. And I missed those so much. And I was almost paralyzed. I couldn't believe how people were like so fancy and they could do all kinds of stuff, and I was the complete opposite, right? And that roundtable with these other people that do other creative stuff really, really was interesting because we were talking about how we feel about this crisis and then what we want to do as a goal. And I was like, damn, now I have to set a goal and keep myself accountable to these people that I don't know. But you know what? It worked.
That's excellent. Accountability.
Yes.
Is wonderful because if without it, sometimes we don't have it. We can only have enough willpower to last us throughout the day. But when we have someone, that's going to say, hey, you know what, you better get that done. You don't want to look bad in front of those people. So you're pushed to do it. You can, the social media stuff, if you look out there and you see those people are doing all of this, they may be doing a lot, but are they doing what's meaningful? And as far as being in a creative rut and being stuck in the house, yeah, I think that is what gets us because we fixate on, even though this is, our usual. This is
Yeah.
our usual. And all of a sudden, someone is denying me, or something is denying me the ability to get out and see all this wonderful stuff. But if we're here and we just slow down and we take a look at things that we would like to do, if we revisit old ideas, if we revisit things that used to really spark creativity in us, and take it apart, really, take it apart. We'll discover things that we've just been neglecting because we live in a world where we're bombarded every second with tons and tons and megabits and just too much. And we can't think, we can't stop, and we can't hear ourselves think. We can't feel ourselves think. Okay? We can't let certain emotions come up. And we can't, God forbid, we express the wrong emotions in front of the wrong person and they take it the wrong way.
Right.
So we're repressed. Okay, first of all, we're just really repressed. Before we're depressed, we're repressed. And this quarantine, 40 days quarantine. Christ walks out for 40 days and he goes out in the desert, whatever, however they came up with that word. This is our time for us to fast on a lot of from a lot of that's out there, and pick and choose what it is that we like about our artwork, our families, ourselves, and find new and more creative ways to express them. I've even journal a lot. And for me, it's mostly writing. I'm a writer. Now, I will say that. I am a writer. As far as photographer, no. But writer, that's me. And for me to be able to go into my journals and begin to sketch out the scenes that I see, or to revisit the guys that I consider the photographic masters, Bresson, Cartier-Bresson, Van Ho, and go back and look at what drew me to them and why. It's all because I've had certain liberties taken away from me. But take a good look at it. They've given us a hell of a luxury to be able to sit in our homes,
right,
and do something valuable with our time, which is more valuable than the things that we create.
But this reminds me that you posted some of your journal pages on, I think, the Instagram story. And oh my God, I love that because I do art journaling. It's called. I do not write a lot, but yours that was so cool. You sketched. You had photos in there too, and then writing. And is that something that you have been doing just now, or have you done that like for years and years?
For years and years, no. I would write and then I would sketch. Or I would sketch and then I would write. But lately, because we can't get out, I pulled out that journal. I pulled out a couple of journals. And most of it was writing. But then there are places, I travel a lot through Spain. My wife is from Spain. And there was a time that I was working and I was in a neighborhood in Barcelona and everyone, kept telling me, oh, you got to go here, you got to go there. But I'll tell you, that I walked out and I stayed in one neighborhood for about a month. And I never left that neighborhood. But before I went back, I went and visited all of the little sites and everything. But it was just because I sketched the plaza. I knew the people. I had made friendships. And I had no need to go anywhere else. So what does it have to do with the journals? I wanted to go back to Barcelona. Because a friend of mine contacted me the same way that you're contacting me. He was on his patio and we were, speaking, his wife, my wife, we all had a great time and had a cup of coffee together. And when I went back and looked, I saw how much value was in those ideas. And it's all interconnected, our hands, our eyes. So we have to create with a whole body experience. It has to be holistic. And that was the best way for me to, tap into that without having to leave my sofa. It was all right there. It was on tap. I could just get it in my journal. I knew what I had written. I remember what I had written. I remember why I felt that way. I remember my hand
Yeah.
crossing over the pages. And you know, we can recreate that experience once we are able to walk out of our doors without the fear of becoming sick, with our cameras, with whatever we have, and go out and really enjoy and create anew.
That's so cool. I really hope, Grant, that was super, super interesting and very, very wonderful to talk to you. I really hope once this is over that you and I will get together and have a coffee somewhere, and maybe we do a stroll together and
Love
take photos, right? Because I think it would be interesting to see, you know, the world from your view too.
Oh, I want to see work from your view because I'm thinking of, you know, actually picking up a new way of expressing myself.
I,
I'm not pulling your leg when I tell you I really enjoy looking at your artwork. It's
Thank
very
you.
inspiring.
Well, you inspired me to a painting, by the way. You posted a picture of a liquor store a couple of days ago, or maybe a week ago, and you pointed out that it is essential business, and it made me laugh and think. Both at the same time, because people are weird and I am a weird person, and so
Good.
I'm doing a painting. I almost finished off a liquor store, and of course I knew the title before it was essential business.
It is essential. We need it for medicinal purposes only.
But it's a different liquor store that I had taken on John F. Kennedy Boulevard before, which Ferrara, it's called Ferrara.
Yeah, but it's beautiful because it has the teal blue.
Yeah. Well, the colors
Yeah,
are
yeah.
different in the painting, but I love the scaffolding and like this signage, you know. So yeah, you inspired me with your photos and your thinking to my own art. So I thank you for that.
But that's what we're here to do for one another. Because now I have to go out and get that witch hat house and be able to photograph it in a way that even not, it's not going to be compared to yours. It's not a competition, but at least I can have the same feeling of accomplishment that I can feel for you through looking at your paintings.
Maybe we should plan someday like something where we put those two things together, photography and I do acrylic paintings, so the acrylic paintings, and we put it together, and it's like because it's different and it's pretty cool. It's like, but you know, I think it would be a great way to come together. But there could be something to chew on in the future if we want to do that.
I would be flattered to work with you on something like that.
Thank you so much, Grant. I hope to see you
Thank
soon
you.
again.